Today we have with us a very special guest, Abhinav Sinha. Abhinav comes from an engineering background and has been in thick and thin of building a franchise, a great venture called Eco Financial Services for the last 15, 16 years that he has been into this. Uh, what I'm reminded of, and the topic of this conversation is banking on the unbanked, right? So I'm reminded of one of the poems of Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, which says that रोटी उसकी जिसका जमीन जिसका अनाज जिसका श्रम है अब कौन उलट सकता स्वतंत्रता का सुसिद्ध सीधा क्रम है स्वाधीन मनुष्य की इच्छा के आगे पहाड़ हिल सकता है रोटी क्या ये अंबर वाले सारे सिंगार मिल सकते हैं. So with that kind of thought, I think getting into that space where very seldom entrepreneurs delve into and creating that kind of franchise. Kudos to what you've been building here, Abhinav. And first questions first. I would want to understand about your journey at Eco and what inspired you to build Eco Financial Services.
Thank you, Amit, for having me over, and thank you for this opportunity for sharing my story. Uh, Small correction: we've been running Echo since the last 18 years. We are running our 18th year right now. I started Echo in September of 2007, and the thing that really inspired Abhishek, who's my co-founder, and me to start Echo, actually goes back a little further before we started Echo. Abhishek had started a company in 2002, and we used to make they used to make software for mobile network operators. And I finished college in 2003, worked for a couple of years outside. And thereafter, in 2005, I ended up working at the startup that Abhishek had started. And my one of the opportunities that came across me, and thanks to Abhishek's co-founder in the last startup, uh, that he handed over me this opportunity that had come to us. There was an opportunity to implement an easy recharge platform in a mobile operator in Oman. And if you go back early 2000, not that, easy recharge was something that we were kind of, doing on a day-to-day basis. But if you recall, the way we used to do easy recharge was very different. There used to be scratch cards. We would scratch the scratch cards, take a 16-digit number, put it on an SMS, send that SMS, and thereafter, your phone would ping and say that, you're recharged. And the software that we had to implement was actually getting rid of this scratch card, right? So the experience that the operator wanted to deliver was the customer goes into a retail outlet, says that I want to recharge for 500 rupees, and you walk out with your recharge without any scratch cards being delivered to you, right? And when we kind of built this software, and I had this really very fireside, what do you call, just next to the operator sitting implementing this system, it was very profound learning for me where I realized that the removal of scratch card was such an important thing, right? As soon as you remove the scratch cards, the recharge, there were two things that started to happen post that. One was immediately the operator could start to go to very, very deep rural places, right? Because now the transportation of the scratch card was not a question. Second, because the scratch card had not to be manufactured, so there was no cost. There was no cost of production of the scratch card, and therefore theoretically you could actually do a recharge even for a rupee. You could go down to a rupee because now the inventory was not physical, right? And these two really strong things, the fact that now you could go to rural, you could literally do business in metro, urban, rural, tier 5, 6, whatever, and you could recharge with any value. We could see how massively our platform started to get used in that mobile network operator. And once we had operationalized this on one particular partner of yours, we had the opportunity of implementing this in a couple of other operators during the course I spent in that particular company. And while we were implementing this, one of the ideas that kind of germinated was, imagine the power of a similar thing if something similar could be put to State Bank of India, right? Imagine if you could open a bank account at a neighborhood kirana store. Imagine if you could actually do all your banking transaction at a neighborhood kirana store. while we were building that technology, and from a technology side, we thought that this is very powerful, we could also see that even the policymakers were wanting to solve this problem, because the big problem that India was facing is just about 10 to 15% of every Indian who could have a bank account had a bank account. And we saw how the telecom network really kind of pushed and went to millions and now billions of people who have a mobile connectivity. It was really a question that, can banking be solved at that level? Now, now I'm happy to, share that, today the prime ministers from the ramparts of the Red Fort claims that we have more than 900 million bank accounts which have opened. The reality of that is that very few of those bank accounts have been opened at bank branches. Most of these accounts that have been opened by these entities called business correspondent. There's a RBI guideline called the business correspondent. ECHO participates with multiple banks as a business correspondent agency. And just on our platform, we have close to about 500,000, about 5 lakh retail outlets who have got trained on banking products, and over 7 crore people have, over the course of the last 18 years, have used our service. Whether they've opened a bank account, they've either deposited money, they've withdrawn money, they've remitted money, they've taken a small savings product, they've taken Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, could be any of those products. But about 5 lakh retail outlets, about 7 crore people have utilized our network, and banking, so basic banking services have got dispensed over our retail network, over our platform in the last 17, 18 years. So it is a very fulfilling journey, where we've seen, where I think India used to claim just about 100 million people with bank accounts, and today we do claim over 900 million bank accounts in the country. So ECHO has played its part. We've been one amongst many who've participated in making this happen.
It's really heartening to know what you've done at Eco. And also, I think, when you started off in 2005-7, what you said, I think being a engineer from a reputed institution, I think normally the recourse that people take is, get into some glamorous jobs and do something and try to see life on a different trajectory. I think how difficult it was for you to venture into a lot of unknowns in this territory, which has primarily been the domain of banks, and get into that and wear their hat, understand the market, and what I've learned from you, the way you have delivered and the way Eco has delivered in last so many years, it's phenomenal, right? What what kind of a spirit are you that keeps you motivated, guided, and at the end of the day, driving these results year after year? Because, I feel personally, that's my belief that a lot of times, I as an entrepreneur, and today also at that stage of life, I get bored after a while, right? So how do you engage yourself in such a way, which makes you, active and, deliver exactly what you deliver?
So, I first part of your question as to how I got inspired, I take absolutely zero credit for that. All the credit, about 60 or 70% of the credit, I give to my friends who actually joined Abhishek's startup before I did. And some of them really used to kind of call me every day and say that, hey, why don't you jump the boat as well? And, it's going to be real good fun, working in a startup. About 70%, 80% of the credit I really give to my friends who actually jumped, left their jobs in TCS, Infosys, and wherever they used to work, and joined Abhishek startup and got into this startup culture, and kind of, and they kind of almost on an everyday basis used to tell me that, hey, why don't you come in as well? So it was my brothers. So Abhishek is my co-founder at ECHO. He's also my elder brother. It was Abhishek's startup. So it was my brother's startup, but it was my friends who actually joined the company much before I did. And it is they who kind of, inspired me to jump on the boat. I think the next 20% credit I would give it to Abhishek, to have taken the leap to have actually started his first startup in 2002. So I think he is more of a born entrepreneur than I am. And so I would really give a lot of credit to my friends and Abhishek to have done what they did in the early part of inspiring me to get onto this journey. As far as our perseverance, patience in continuing to run ECHO is concerned, I think we were really driven by this big problem statement that we thought about, which was about, it is very important for people in India to have an access to bank account. I think it was a very, very bold, big mission statement to start off with. And over the last 18 years, we've kind of, gone through our ups and lows, and we've looked at Echo and its mission in a very, very different way. The way we kind of see Echo's mission today is that, if you look at our platform, you have a bank, let's say you have a bank or a brand on one side, who wants to get to a customer who's unable to consume the product or the service of the brand directly. So it was State Bank of India who wanted to open bank account, they couldn't do it themselves. As a result of which, there was a third entity that came into the picture, which was an entrepreneur, who was a lot more digitally savvy in the ecosystem, got trained on the product of the brand on our platform and dispensed it to the customer, right? And when we so 80 to 90% of our product development that we do today is for the entrepreneur. It's for that small, ambitious person who wants to create a micro enterprise of their own. And now, if you look at the situation in India, at least about 50 to 60 crore jobs have to get created in this country, right? And the way it is going to happen is through platforms like, great fan of platforms like Zomato, Blinkit, Swiggy, Uber, Ola. These are gig platforms where people are kind of, latching onto these platforms and creating their micro enterprises. And so is Echo. There is an entrepreneur today who can make a choice of becoming an Amazon delivery guy, or he can make a choice of becoming a so-called a banker in the community and train over our platform and start to dispense products, right? So if you look at it, in 18 years, we've come to 5 lakh retailers slash micro entrepreneurs that we've enabled. The question is, how do you take it to 100x now? Right? Because that's the need in the country. And I think the country needs platforms, whether Echo does it or anybody else does it, but we certainly need platforms at massive scale where job generation is becomes a lot more easier.
Thank you so much. That takes me to my next question, which is about, of course, the mission for yours and for Team Eco to serve the underbanked, non-banked population, and how do you create a stickier products around that, and to build that kind of ecosystem and franchise. At the same time, when you were doing this, there were a couple of other players in the market also who happened to arrive, and they also kind of differentiated in their terms, in lot many terms, in the positioning and the way they wanted to do all of this. Few of them got shut down, few of them are still doing it. uh, what differentiates you from other platforms like Echo? What is the one different, if I have to ask you one USP where you stand out from your competition, what would be that one thing?
Amit, you yourself are an entrepreneur in the fintech space. So I think, if you, good question, because you asked me just one answer. I think the one answer is about transparency. At the end of the day, whether it's a customer, whether it's the brand, whether it's the entrepreneur, they put in their hard-earned money onto the platform, right? And over the last 18 years, I think one thing that we've proven is your money will not get lost, untraceable, if you put that money in it. I think we've gone through multiples up and down, but I think the ability to provide that transparency, I think, is key to for whether it's the customers, entrepreneurs, whoever it is, to continue to trust on the platform and work with us.
Sounds great. I think very interesting, and transparency. I can relate with it so much, Abhinav, when I say this, because the kind of platform that we are trying to build is more on transparency and trust, which is a escrow as a platform, credit banking as a platform. So I can so relate to it, and it's so relatable for me. I'll move to the next set of questions, which is around a few ups and downs that you have faced during this journey. I think what was one of the biggest challenges that you had encountered during this 18-year journey that you had, and how did you overcome that?
Amit, let me give you some flavors to this. Let me start from COVID. Okay, COVID was something which wasn't, let's say, created by any one of us, right? It was a situation that we were kind of all of us put into, right? I think if you ask this question to a lot of entrepreneurs, I think COVID will probably appear as a event of lot of hardship or a massive event or an opportunity to scale, right? So COVID was a very different challenge. For instance, we like I mentioned, the entire service that we deliver is via these micro entrepreneurs, primarily retail outlets, right? On one particular day, there is a lockdown, right? The retailers are shut. So the customers, even if they need those financial services, can't really access those financial services because the entire accessing of those financial services via the retailer, right? Very interestingly, we were business correspondent as this industry. We were also declared as an essential service. So we would let our entrepreneurs know that you are a part of the essential services, but it is their personal call whether they believe it is safe for them to actually open and make themselves available or not, right? So I think it was a very, very hard problem to solve, and it's very, looking back, I don't think so it was about one particular idea or one particular thing that we may have done during COVID. I think for us it kind of lasted for about maybe till about mid of 2022. The COVID, the lockdown, the sporadic, the specific lockdowns in smaller areas, and then the business impact of all of that. I think so that was a very hard problem statement to solve for. Secondly, I don't think so there was one specific or two specific ideas or things that we ended up doing. I think what really worked for us is that I think we kind of within the organization, I think we started to create certain routines which kind of made sure that the colleagues, the leadership, the colleagues, the teams kind of met and discussed whatever we could do at that point in time. I think rather than working in silos because we were all working from home, rather than working in silos, I think we put in a lot of effort to make sure that the leadership engaged multiple times in a day. The mid management worked engaged couple of times so I think we created some rhythms which created internal energy. Now, whether all of that execution really resulted in something positive, I don't recall now. May have, but I think what it really did was it did give in that very, very tough times a purpose for every colleague to kind of fight for. Whatever little work that we were kind of able to think through, because our main channels were kind of very, very were all blocked, right? So I think those rhythms and the internal routines that we had created, which made sure that there was internal engagements. I think that kind of created micro missions for leaders, teams to work towards. And I think one day at a time, I think everybody within the organization took one day at a time, and we built it from there. So that was COVID. I think the one other thing that I would really, and I'm sure this may a lot of entrepreneurs may end up listening to our conversations. The one thing that I really want to share is, and I think all entrepreneurs face this, is that I started my company in September of 2007. The reason I repeat this is that 2007 was the year iPhone got launched. So what really happened, the first version of our platform, and we were doing mobile telephony, right? We were coming from mobile phone. We wanted to leverage how the mobile phones were being leveraged on the mobile network operators and get banking to it. So we were first ones trying to kind of do something with payments on the mobile phone. Our entire tech stack was built on a feature phone, right? Because iPhones were launched in 2007, so it was almost impossible for an entrepreneur like me to have imagined that, let's say 3 years down, everybody would have a smartphone, right? And probably around 2010, some of us were hanging out with Blackberries. So even in 2010, it was very hard to believe that every retail outlet, every customer who walks in will have a smartphone in their hands. And one big mistake that we ended up doing is that we did not anticipate accurately when the smartphone will become big in our sector. And we were late. And how much late were we? Let's say we were late by a year. That year was big enough for a lot of mobile company payment companies to come in and take the space that Echo could have achieved ourselves, right? Now, were we before time? Sure, we were. Were there advantages of being before time? Sure, there were. We learned a lot more how to work with banks, what were regulations, how do you do transactions. We learned it before, but something that and that was our advantage, right? So we were, just to give you numbers, we had processed 14,000 crores on a feature phone before we dumped that technology. right? So something that was working for us had to be dumped, right? And a new trend was coming. And it was a big learning for us that, and as an entrepreneur, I have learned that, when a big trend comes, even if you don't get it, you got to start to say yes. So for example, generative AI is too big a trend and very, very useful. So it's almost impossible for people to question. But many a times trends do come. And I think as an entrepreneur, I have personally learned and only wish to share that I think entrepreneurs and senior managements have to align themselves to say yes to those trends, start exploring those trends. Some things may be a dud, but some things may work. But almost, but certainly not to start with a no that this is not important. So I would just leave it there. That's a big learning for us.
Two things that I take from the things that you mentioned. One is that any black swan event which happens periodically, that for organizations creates a very strong resilience mechanism once the organization goes through that patch. And I've personally witnessed this a couple of times during my career across different organizations. And institutions have come stronger out of this period if they have been able to survive and sail through this boat. So
Certainly.
that's A. B is that there is a line which says that ना सुधरोगे तो मिट जाओगे, ना सुधरोगे तो मिट जाओगे, दास्तान तक न रहेगी दास्तानों में, right? So I mean the trend that you were talking about, the way feature phone and the whole smartphone journey happened, and I mean there were big players, and I would just remind myself of Nokia as in case in point, right? One of the biggest companies doing wonderfully well. Same for BlackBerry as well. And we saw that where what happened with the test of time, and they were not able to sail the boat in the manner they could have. So I think big chapter of history, a lot to learn from that. And as an entrepreneur, I think one hat that you never leave is that hat of learning. No matter where you are, no matter what much experience do you have, but life is such a treacherous journey that at every step it teaches you something or the other. So with this,
Certainly.
I'll move to the next set of questions, which is on partnership. And I think your journey and the Echo's journey is more about building and forging those partnerships. How important and how crucial is that partnership for Echo's growth strategy?
Very, 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 very critical. And thank you again for asking this question. Again, I'll take it back to the mission statement. The mission statement for us was really to enable these small micro entrepreneurs to dispense, financial services across the country. Now, in while we were doing this, and this is like now I'm telling you a story of 2013, 2014 kind of time frame, right? Now, the only way to get to a retail outlet. Now, so there are some retailers who have a feature phone, there are some retailers who don't have a feature phone. Some of them are already on Facebook, some of them are not, right? So online marketing was not a method, right? Online marketing was not a method to kind of get to retail outlets. And if you go to the gurus of people who would do retail, you would go to the likes of HUL, you would go to the likes of mobile network operators, they wouldn't have done online marketing to kind of onboard retail outlets, right? So the method to onboard retailers onto your program was in-person pitching. You go down the street, you kind of speak to each retail outlet. Some of them will be interested, some of them will not. So you go down the street and you do this one by one, right? Now we had understood that this is very, very hard to do. And this is what we were doing every day. We are doing this every day, and we could see that, the scale of Echo is linear, right? So if you have 100 men on the ground, 100 men will pitch 500 people in a day, and you multiply it by, let's say, 25 working days, and there is a, X percent, let's say 1% conversion. That's all you could do, right? So we realized that, in order to have a hockey stick growth, you know, people putting men on the ground was not the solution. We really had to think hard. How do you do this, right? And the question that Abhishek had asked us, a very, very tough and a very interesting question, that, let's look for examples of humongous scales with comparatively very little capital that has been spent to achieve that scale. So that was the question that we had to answer. We didn't have a lot of capital. We wanted to scale in India. but we had to figure out a method which was not expensive, right? And and we started to look for examples here. And when we started to look for examples, the most apt example that we thought was Android. No, not commenting on the capital expense, but if you look at their competitive landscape, iOS was their entrenched player. They had to beat. And one of the very important strategies that they ended up taking was they started to enable others to build smartphones as well, right? So today, I think about 2000, I think there are about 2000 smartphone manufacturers on Android. And Android today has a market share of about close to about 85%, right? So they allowed others to build along with them. Now that's a leaf that we took out of that story. And we said that we will have an open API platform, which we launched in late 2015. Now, Amit, let me tell you, imagine an open API platform in the business correspondent space in 2015.
Too difficult to imagine that, but
Too
yeah.
difficult to imagine. Today, all of us, you and I, interact on APIs. The banks are talking about APIs, but I think all of that is post-COVID.
Yeah.
Most of that is post-COVID, right? Imagine 2015, and this is not API opening for the top tier of this country. This is opening up APIs for developers to build for the Bharat in late 2015, right? Today, we power more than 2,000 apps on the Play Store, which compete with us, right? So the question of partnership is extremely important. We partnered with developers in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, made sure that they understand our APIs, made sure that they understood how to integrate it and build their apps and put it on a Play Store. Close to about 66% of our business, some parts of our business are driven by those developers. That's how critical partnership is. And so that's my story. So, sure, we did partnership with State Bank of India, and there is a story behind partnership with ICICI Bank, or even working with Castler. But I think the most powerful story is how have we kind of in 2015 opened up our APIs and enabled small developers. 80% of our partners are not based out of metros and state capitals. Right. I think that's where I think our work has made a little bit of difference, whatever difference that we've been able to create. I think that's where we've managed to create a difference.
I take two keywords out of this. One is delegation, and second is empowerment. I think these two drivers I see very clearly and very distinctly has been able to drive in terms of your partnership growth at ECO. I'll move to the next question, which is on innovation vis-a-vis regulation. So that's something which has been doing rounds for quite some time in the fintech industry and the reasons that we serve for. What's your view? How do you maintain an equilibrium between both innovation and regulation? And what are your views? What is your perspective on that?
Amit, I personally, until 2014, 2015, let's say until the coming of NPCI, UPI, etc., when this digital public infrastructure has really come into being and has its own speed, right? I think before that, I think entrepreneurs, especially in the fintech world, could be disappointed. With the pace, I think the regulations were all going the right direction, could be disappointed at which the regulatory changes were happening. I think the world has changed. I think the world has changed. I think today there's a lot of innovation that's coming right from the government, right? Government, the regulators, the central bodies, NPCIs of the world. I think there's a lot of innovation. I think that they are solving for a large part of innovation. I think today the entrepreneurs really have to catch up and make sure that, all the opportunities being opened by them, are we able to kind of take it, imbibe in our products and our services, and explode it further, right? So I think there are parts of regulations where you would be disappointed with, but I think there's a very large part of the regulation, and thanks to the availability of digital public infrastructure, I think the speed of innovation has increased quite a bit, right? I think today the task of innovation has come down. I think there was a lot harder for entrepreneurs in our generation to start thinking about new ideas. I think today it is easy and it's great. Easier things scale. Hard things are very hard to scale, right? So today, I think with the availability of digital public infrastructure and a proactive regulator for most of the things, I think it's a lot better today. As entrepreneurs, you and I can certainly ask for more, but I think there's a lot on the table that can be explored today.
Sure. One thing which I think we discussed during the course of this webinar was on technology front, where you spoke about feature phone to smartphone, and I think how has your technology stack evolved over this period of time, and can you share some insights on them?
Um, by the way, here also, I think the important bits, if I have to share, Amit, I think on very first day we didn't start. First of all, I think we didn't start writing from scratch. What we did was we went to the web, we looked for an open source platform, we evaluated a few. As soon as we got hands of a one single open source platform which made sense, we just download and we start building on top of it. So I would again recommend a lot of entrepreneurs to actually look for open source platforms to start their journeys with. There is no reason today, especially in the world of generative AI today, to start building from scratch. I think the next big pivot that we had to do was this feature phone to smartphone conversion, right? I think we had a very deep understanding of feature phones. Unfortunately, not of use much today, but we had to really think of the user interface. We really had to think about quite a few protocols between the front end and the back end that had to change. I think that was a very important time. We were late to it, but it was a very important time for us to make that transition. The first one was the adoption of open source. The second one was while we were late to figure out how and when to flip between the feature phone and the smartphone. I think the third big step on the technology side that we ended up taking was opening of this API. Was a very important step that we had to do. Fourth is that this is post COVID. We've also launched a SaaS platform of ourselves, and maybe this is the best time to talk about it. But today our offering, today we in order to further kind of empower the micro entrepreneurs across the length and breadth of this country, we've come out with a SaaS platform called Iloka. And not getting into the specific tech stacks, but just broadly kind of making it easier for entrepreneurs to kind of take the big takeaways here is that one, start from open source. It's really good. Second is look for a trend. If the trend is getting big, I think don't even wait for the trend to become big, because if the trend has become big, we are probably already late. If you have picked up a trend, get onto it as soon as possible. I think the example for today is Gen AI. If you're not on Gen AI, then I think you're already late. Third is, I think, partnership, which is from an open API perspective. I think open API, the world is interfacing itself with APIs. I think every platform should open their APIs, whichever. I think there is no reason for you to be a closed platform ever in today's world. I think that the philosophy goes further when we kind of created a SaaS platform as well.
That's lovely, Abhinav. So I'll move towards few things that we do here at Castler, which is I think since you have been serving the unbanked population and you understand banking in lot many ways much better than what we understand. So I mean, transaction banking as an ecosystem, it has evolved a lot. I think post COVID, the whole ecosystem has gone through a lot of changes, and there are players in the market who are offering connected banking, who are offering escrow, who are offering current accounts, and trying to stick those solutions around different use cases. So, what do you think? How does the future hold for ecosystem players like us in this kind of space? And what is your advice?
Massive, Amit, massive. The adoption. First of all, if you look at just the economy, I think if you look at the big macro, we are expected to double our economy in the next, I don't know, maybe in the next 10 years. People are expecting us to be a 10 trillion dollar economy. Look at the number of enterprises that have to get opened. Most of the enterprises are going to be small to mid or micro enterprises. 1% of them will become very, very large companies, right? Each of those small, mid, medium-sized enterprise will need better solutions for transaction banking. I think it's a given, because transaction banking is one of the very key aspects of making, as we say it, ease of business. Just to make sure that there is ease of business. Yeah, I think the space is massive. Just because the economy is going to go 2x, most of the organizations that are going to come are actually going to be micro, small, medium enterprise, very large. Very few will be large enterprises which will have the banks will probably serve them directly. But rest of them, they all need you and me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. With this, I think this was more on the professional side of knowing Abhinav. I'll move to the other side. Who is Abhinav Sinha? Apart from, no echo, no such tag, who are you as a person? What are you passionate about in life? What do you want to do apart from the regular stuff that you do? I know, I mean, there is a lot of passion in the thing that you are trying to drive, and you are a big, big change in the ecosystem, where the future, I would say, in lot many ways, of this country. I mean, players like you, I mean, you gonna derive a lot of this for future players also. So what are your passions? What do you do outside your work? Could you just talk about that?
I mean, thank you for asking this question. I'm a father of a 19-year-old son. I'm sorry, 19-month-old son. So I'm having a fantastic time. You know, for all the stress that we have on work, as soon as I enter home, my 19-month-old son ensures that I forget everything about it. So on the personal side, just less than 2 years of being a father, I think it's a lot of learning, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of diaper changes. So I think I just learning that, enjoying it, thoroughly enjoying it. Every time, every time I'm asked to work from home, very internally, I'm very, very happy. I don't have to come to work. I have my entire day with my son. I'm very, very happy those days. Apart from that, I think couple of things that I have nurtured. Sometimes those are I'm regular at it, and there are times which I'm not. There were I am very interested in photography, and there's a lot of time that I used to spend on photography many years back. But I think with coming of feature phones, even that has got coming of smartphones, even that has got disrupted, right? Earlier we used to carry around ourselves with those DSLR cameras, and you could almost identify people who were more, let's say, interested in photography. They would carry a DSLR camera. And one thing that I really miss is the fact that many years back, my camera stopped working, and there was an iPhone in my hand, and started to use the iPhone. And since then, I've never picked up a DSLR camera. I feel bad about it, but I think I do have an eye for photography. I do have an eye for, if I look at a place, whether it's people, whether it's general scenery, I have a sense, okay, this is something, this is worth capturing for. I think I like that part. I think something that I have also, my mother identified it, and I was very careless about it, but I've picked up very recently, is also singing. My mother, in very, very young age, used to send me to these music classes, which I really did not like to go for. And I put in all my efforts to not nurture that part of myself. And my mother was used to be really disappointed. Only in my late 30s I realized that, oh damn it, I missed something. And I really am. And my mother continues to learn vocal music from a guru of hers. And I then I eventually, a couple of years back, I went to her and said, hey, why don't you introduce your guruji to me? And since then, it's been a couple of years that now also I also learn vocal music, and thanks to the Guruji, I've learned how to play the harmonium. So I think outside of work, I think uh, having a young son is a lot of energy, lot of fun. And I think two things that I've pursued a little more than other is vocal singing and photography.
Perfect. I think with this, we'll end this, set of webinar that we, have been discussing for quite some time. I think one thing which comes out very clearly and which I understand from your journey, and I would like to sum it up in another line. To all the fellow entrepreneurs who are watching it, to all the fellow people who want to entail this journey, सिमटी बाहों को खोल गरुड़, सिमटी बाहों को खोल गरुड़, उड़ने का बंदाज बदल, सिमटी बाहों को खोल गरुड़, उड़ने का बंदाज बदल, स्वाधीन मनुष्य की इच्छा के आगे पहाड़ हिल सकता है, रोटी क्या ये अंबर वाले सारे सिंगार मिल सकता है. So
Wow.
with this, I'll conclude this conversation and thank you so much, Abhinav, for sharing your insights and sharing your personal space with us. It was lovely chatting with you.
Amit, to you and your colleague, thank you so much for having me on this.
And we simply loved it. So yeah,
Likewise.
much. Thanks.
Thank you.